there's also a report out today showing that child poverty spiked by 41%. I think it went from a rate of, off the top of my head, 12% to 17%. Don't quote me exactly on that, but it amounted to a 41% increase in child poverty over the course of a month, essentially from December to January. It also just gives you a sense of like just how precarious things are in this country for people. And it was a function of the child tax credit that ran out. $250 a month for children 6 to 17, $300 per month for those under 6, and almost all the families in the United States. And it ended, and it goes from, the child poverty rate rose from 12% in December 2021 to 17% in January. And, even Nancy Pelosi is always saying it's about the children. But how, how is this not, in what kind of society do we live that this is not even close to the outrage that is associated with, the latest Durham filing or, I don't know, the Canadian truckers, or,
Whoopi Goldberg.
Or Whoopi Goldberg, or...
I mean, I'd really like a side-by-side comparison of the number of minutes of news coverage that were devoted to the child poverty spike and Whoopi Goldberg.
I mean...
I would love that, yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's like... I mean, I understand how the media works and understand that, but... it's not like this is pouring out of, everybody's Twitter feed either. It's available. We do have areas where the bar to entry is pretty low, and, the ice bucket challenge or whatever that was a couple of years ago, that traveled on Twitter. I just don't understand a society where you can't get really a peep out of almost anybody over a 1 month spike in child poverty for such obvious reasons. It's because their parents are getting $250 or $300 less a month. I mean, that's it. This is a very simple, here's my pen. I drop it, it falls, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we're really trained in the kind of media environment we have now, to just focus 24/7 on culture war and any kind of story that can be about the morality of an individual person, right? Is this is this person who's in the media a good guy who we should all applaud, or a bad person who whatever shouldn't be on The View, I guess, in that example, that they have and that's the kind of thing that people are used to getting angry about and to thinking about. I think that a lot of times stuff like child poverty, even though, as you point out, I mean, in this particular case, I mean, the solution is incredibly straightforward, and there's this obvious causal relationship there. I think people are used to thinking of things like that as intractable, and so it's just sort of pointlessly depressing to think about, right? Whereas whether somebody should get fired, or what comment somebody made at one time or another time or whatever, I think seems more that seems more concrete. That seems like something that might really happen, that somebody will get fired or won't get fired, or will apologize for something or won't apologize for something. Whereas what are the conditions under which people in poor families are growing up? I mean, I think that's just kind of treated as the background hum of how life is, and not as something. Yeah,
and it's also poverty. One, we've there's this apathy towards politics because there's like we've been conditioned in this country that the government isn't really there to alleviate people's material conditions because poverty is a moral failing. And so there's a no literacy among the body politic to talk about poverty in political terms anymore. I think that's been largely erased from most of society.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it is really striking. Like, if you think about like LBJ talking about a war on poverty, to think how unimaginable it would be that Biden would start talking about that like that, or that like the next president would start talking like that, because people don't think of it as something that is tractable, and maybe even as something that should be remedied, because it is so easy to like, I think the effectiveness of that kind of reactionary propaganda, that it's just a sort of individual moral issue, has been so overwhelming, right? Like the student loan example, right? That they not that that's even, I think, the worst instance, or should necessarily be at the very top of the priority list, compared to something like child poverty. But the fact that so much discussion about the idea of student loan forgiveness ends up being a discussion of like whether people made good choices leading up to having to take out student loans, and whether they should have known better, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, rather than asking like, why do we have the kind of system where you have to take out loans to go to college in the first place? But like, it's, again, if you could make it about individual morality, I think that's something that a lot of people can much more easily understand and much more easily get excited about, because it's fun to judge people, and it's not particularly fun to think about like the structural defects of how the economy works.
Yeah.
It would. Why can't we even make fun of people, and for people who are standing in the way of 41% of children not living in poverty? I mean, like, I don't,
you can't confront them in the bathroom.
I mean, if I understand the limitations of U.S. society, at least in terms of like, media and whatnot, and maybe that can be changed and maybe it can't, but it is as it is right now. Why can't we make fun of, why can't the villain be the person, and
why can't people be the villain for that? Right?
Yes.
Like not
like,
for,
I mean, if we, look, we were talking Fatty Arbuckle 100 years ago. And, I understand there's a certain amount of this that's involved in it. I mean, we engage in certainly mocking, Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro, whomever it is. But you'd think, somebody would have developed a machine to be able to also say like, oh, we could actually, how do we make the celebrity gossip in this instance about the fact that, we've increased child poverty in the course of a month because of one simple, straightforward policy that Joe Manchin does not want in that bill, frankly. And also the other 50 Republicans.
Yeah, for sure. I guess like what I immediately flashed to is like thinking back to last year when everybody spent a month arguing about the optics of AOC's dress that said tax the rich on it, and whatever you think about like, whether she should have done that or not, like it is really striking, right? That like something like that gets so much more public attention than like, just to be simplistic about this, just than the issue of whether we should actually tax rich people more.
I mean, it would be interesting if, I don't know when that, if there's another gala coming up, but that we increased 41% child poverty by 41% in 1 month because of I don't know if that's going to fit on a dress, but if it did, that'd be the one that I would wear.